Okay, hey, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a really cool review for you from the brand Greg Stevens Design, or GSD. They were founded back in 2005. They're mostly known for their custom leather goods, and they've basically expanded into the occasional low volume wristwatch release from time to time. Now, this particular type of watch I'd consider it a pilot's watch. Some key common characteristics and design language when you're looking for a pilot's watch, of course you're going to be really looking for that balance of legibility and functionality. This is his GSD-3A watch, and in particular the variation is considered the Explorer dial because of the 12, 3, 6, and 9, although Explorers are known for 3, 6, 9. But basically by having a little bit more of a stripped down minimalist layout versus the typical original A11 inspired pilot's watch look, which was very nice and very clean, but I think this is a great evolution of that particular design. It's basically available in a stainless steel or a PVD case. You can get it with a sapphire or plexiglass crystal, or you can, and then also you can get it with polished or heat treated blued hands. Here I have the heat treated blue hands with the sapphire crystal and the stainless steel case. So with all that said, let's actually zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. All right, guys. So really handsome watch. Actually, just one thing to note, I do have this on a very nice Haviston strap. Honestly, I purchased this watch with that exact idea in mind, that I was going to pair it with this strap. Yes, I did purchase this watch. This isn't a loaner or some type of review freebie. I've kind of had an eye on Greg Stevens Designs watches for a while now, and I was happy to finally be able to secure one. And then, you know, this is kind of a weird limited early stage where you pretty much can only get these by contacting him directly via Instagram DM. So there's that. But yeah, this thing is sweet. I do have it on this nice Haviston strap. You can see single pass. You're not missing anything on this case back because it's pretty, pretty plain. But one thing I did want to quickly bring on was the packaging, because honestly, I think it's pretty cool when, micro brands just have kind of different packaging than you would expect. And this was no different. So first piece, you get this little kind of soft and fuzzy with business card. And then you also get the specs and then the date on it. So pretty cool, very different. Again, it goes back to the leather goods. Comes with a single pass Zulu style strap. Very nice, very rugged, as well as a non-tapering, really nicely done handcrafted leather strap. I mean, I'm really into a good taper if I'm gonna wear a leather strap, but I think it would go pretty well with this particular style because of the slightly larger size it has at 41 millimeters, even though the dial itself is actually a little bit small for a 41 millimeter. I'm one who tends to lean more towards a tapered, but this looks very nice non-tapered. For me, if it's going to be a non-taper, I prefer it to be something like this, a little bit more of a tactical piece. But yeah, no, this is great. I mean, look at the even the finishing on this milled buckle is quite nice. So I did want to make sure to showcase that because yeah, they're known for their outstanding leather, and there you go. Also came with this cool little tool. Boom, little strap changing action there, as well as what's on this side. Probably, I'm guessing, a pusher. Yep, because this bad boy has drilled lugs, which we'll get into when we get this in hand for a closer look. So this thing is a little bit dusty. it sheds, so be wary of that. But here we go, back to the main event. Ooh, let me actually give it a quick little. Okay. Digging this watch. I like the layout. I like the use of the full white, but then also of the more golden toned kind of faux patina. I like that it's a bit of a two-tone finish. I like that I was able to choose the heat treated blued hands. I'm a real sucker for those. And I like the general just balance of this dial. The case itself, I mean, considering that it has a Miyota 9015 in here, I think it is a little bit thick for a 9015 watch, but you can see here that most of the thickness, it's not the mid case, it's really this dial and then this crystal that protrudes, and then, you know, to a certain extent there's a little bit of a bump in the back here. So that'd probably be the harshest thing I can say about this, is that it could be thinner, and you know, at the same time it is water resistant, which is very nice. Up to 100 meters. It does have a screw down crown, so again, can't be too mad at it, but I will say that it would have been nice for it to be a little bit thinner, but it still works well because of these lugs, how they slope down. So even using a, you know, a nylon strap that's going to run through and put a little bit more distance between your wrist and the case back, it's still not going to be an issue in terms of wearability. Now, this particular model goes for, from my understanding, because they're not listed, 525 is kind of the going rate. It could change by the time you watch this. You know, they could get listed on his site kind of formally, where the previous model was listed. So definitely, depending on when you're watching this, 525 is the going rate, but then they're all plus shipping, so that's not included. But definitely DM him on Instagram for current pricing and configuration options. So depending on the configurations also could vary on the price. I chose, of course, to go with the steel versus the PVD. I don't know if they charge extra for that, because I wasn't really interested in the PVD model. But into the dimensions here, we have a 41 millimeter case, 13 millimeter thickness, and that does include the crystal. So again, although it's not overly thick, it would have been nice to get this bad boy a little thinner. It is 48.9 millimeters lug to lug, full 316L stainless steel, and also fully brushed. There's not really any type of polishing hints or anything like that, and I'm absolutely fine with it. I think the full brush really drives home that tool like kind of aesthetic, and it all goes in really well. In terms of the crystal, we do have that vintage domed sapphire, which is flat, with an inner air coating that does have kind of a blue tint to it, as you can see there. Then we look at the dial. Of course, everything is printed. It does have polished hands, which have been thermally blued. We do also have that beautiful two-tone loom, which I think works out really well. The patina areas glow green and the white areas glow blue. I don't have the full specs in terms of the particular loom compound that was used, so I will just tell you that, and then I'll leave it to you for you guys to decide when we get to the light transition and loom shots. In terms of water resistance, again, this has the bonus of being 100 meters of water resistance, you know, equipped, which is great. And also, of course, a screw down crown, non-signed crown. So when it screws down, it doesn't really matter where it stops because you don't have to realign anything. So that works out. We do have 20 millimeter lugs that are drilled. So this makes this really a strap monster, which is nice. And then again, it does include that non-tapering vintage leather, or you could go for a nylon, or actually I believe it does also come with the nylon Zulu strap. So with all that said, let's go ahead, get this piece on the wrist and see how it wears. Okay, as you can see on my 7 1/4 inch wrist, this wears really well. I think nicely balanced. I think obviously the color palette plays wonderfully on this Haviston strap. Up closer is going to be some lens distortion from the camera here. It's going to appear a little bit bigger, but once you get a little bit more arm in there, I think it does help kind of center the dial on the wrist a little bit and prevent there from feeling like there's any overhang. Also, you can see again, although I said it could be thinner, it's not very thick. Look at that. Looks really, really great. Lays well on the wrist. Honestly, that case back disappears quite well. And then you're really just kind of left with a little bit of the bump, really more so being from the angle on the slope of the bezel, in addition to that sapphire crystal, which is really, really nicely done. Yeah, this is a simple watch, but it's a nice one. I really do enjoy this, and it's been stealing wrist time, which is fun, for a watch that is under $600, to steal a little bit of wrist time. And again, no, this isn't some huge bang per buck, recommendation, and you're going to get all the specs for none of the money. And this is just a cool watch that's sold in low volume, that is, produced by a passionate guy who has I think, a good eye for that military aesthetic. He makes some great leather goods, as well as I think this watch is really cool, and it's a nice evolution of the previous kind of GSD-3A watches, and I'm digging this Explorer variant. I think it definitely gives it a little bit more of a versatile vibe. It feels like it could be more than just a pilot's watch, and can maybe be a field watch or just kind of a general sports watch, especially with the addition of the screw down crown, and then also using a sapphire crystal as an option versus kind of the standard plexi. So I think that's really nice. I'm really digging it, and I think it just flows well, man. What do you guys think? So let's go ahead, get this off the wrist, get everything set up for some loom shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, we'll go ahead and hit the lights here. As you can see, really nice two-tone loom. It's bright, guys. Like, this isn't some chintzy, typical pilot style loom, and that's one thing I really, really appreciate about this watch, and which for me gives it a little bit more of that range and versatility into being somewhat more of an adventurer's watch, or a real dedicated sporty tool watch, versus being a truly dedicated pilot's watch, which it can pull off, but it just has more to give. And this is one of the areas. Yeah, you're getting a lot of loom. You're getting a nice modern blend of, in between that kind of patinaed loom, plus what I'm guessing is BGW9, considering how white it is during the daylight. But one thing I also like to do during these loom shots is work in some low light transition, because you're not always going to be enjoying, direct sunlight out in the middle of a field. A lot of the times you're going to be coming in and out of a building, maybe walking underneath an overhang, or spending time underneath the shade of a tree, or in the cabin of your favorite vehicle. And as you can see, this dial with the loom in transition actually remains quite legible at a lot of different kind of mixed lighting conditions, which is great. So in terms of, being a great tool watch, you're getting that ultimate legibility, which is wonderful. And also, one thing you can notice, especially when I get into some kind of higher contrast, less than optimal lighting, it will typically expose any type of imperfections. You're not going to see those here. I think really nicely brushed. I mean, I wouldn't call it anything to a any super high level or luxury level of finishing. It is, definitely quite industrial, but that fits, it fits the bill. It's what it's supposed to be. But you can see that this thing looks really good. So you don't necessarily need to be out in the wham bam to enjoy it, because look at the tones and the shades, and man, I'm just digging it a lot. So let's go ahead, hit the lights here, and get into some closing thoughts for you guys. On the wrist, it definitely wears like a bold pilot watch should. It has great presence, but does not feel oversized for daily wear. So this is one that you can absolutely, and you can see even with a little bit of extra material between your wrist and the case back, it's still not lifted up off of the wrist too high, which is great. And then again, it does have a slightly smaller dial because it does have a bit of a thicker bezel, which is something to consider. It doesn't look that much bigger. And honestly, I think probably where many pilots watches probably should be is in the 42 millimeter range. But I do enjoy a good 40 millimeter sports watch in general. This being a 41, I think hits that sweet spot, especially considering how well they proportioned that dial to bezel ratio. So very nice from that perspective. In terms of model variants, there are various options, and kind of as I mentioned earlier in the video. So definitely check for availability and pricing. Again, guys, I can't promise that the price won't change or be updated by the time you watch this video. Who knows? You could be watching it years from now. But for those of you that are just about to watch this, and and you go on to his Instagram and you see the pricing, well, then it's going to work out perfectly for you guys. In terms of comparable models, yes, this is a very competitive space, at just under $550, well under $600, but just a touch over 500. It's pretty competitive. But when you actually think about specific pilots watches, I think it opens up a little tiny bit. It's not like there's a diver. That'd be a really, really crowded space. But in terms of really well balanced pilots watches, this one stands out, and it has a very cool kind of classic design without being too derivative, even though he's calling it an Explorer dial. It doesn't look like an Explorer. It's more of kind of just hip watch lingo, so you can remember that it's going to be using a few Arabic numerals here and there. So I think that this watch, it stands out, and it has a lot to do with kind of that clean signature styling, and that design aesthetic that you're seeing. It's just, I think, a bit of a hallmark of his watch releases, where it's very tastefully done, definitely through the eye and the lens of an enthusiast, which is really wonderful. The movement on here is the Miota 9015, just to be clear. So it does have a ghost position because there's no date on this dial. I actually don't mind that. Honestly, when I'm hacking a movement, having that extra spot where the date kind of is that initial click helps me. It makes it a little bit easier to set. Although there is something, of course, very satisfying about not having a ghost position. So I could go either way. I don't mind it here, but when it does happen, I can definitely appreciate it. If he was to use like a 9039 or a 90 OS, I would be fine with that too. So for me, guys, bottom line, this is something that's really different than your typical Flieger style pilot watch. And with the added water resistance, it's pretty nice. Then you kind of combine that. It's just a well-spec'd package. It's giving you heat-treated blued hands as an option. It's giving you sapphire crystal as an option. It's giving you PVD coated case as an option. And then a plethora of different options in terms of really cool, interesting, and custom feeling leather straps, which is great. So with all that said, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do hit like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.